screen ready, and we're good. Okay, so we're going to have yet another debate on the Arthuria server. Shocker, we have GreenEarth and Arcowhip here. GreenEarth is going to be taking the proposition that moral consideration is granted to a species based on their capacity to form emotional bonds with humans. Arcowhip is going to be taking the opposition. The winner will be decided upon who concedes. If no one concedes, we'll put to a voting poll in which the audience can vote on who had the better argumentation, who performed better in the debate, and who opposed the opposition better. This debate's going to have a capacity of 1 hour. It doesn't really seem to be concrete, so I'll probably just warn the debaters that they're approaching the 1 hour, and if they want to continue past there, that's their choice, but we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, thank you guys for debating. You can get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Stone. So GreenEarth asked me to do the opening statement, and I just want to clarify something about the proposition. I'll repeat it once more. Moral consideration is granted to a species based on their capacity to form emotional bonds with humans. And to be clear, it is specifically just the bonds with humans on GreenEarth's view that gives them moral consideration. My opposition is that it is not merely the bonds that give them the moral consideration, but just the capacity to have emotional bonds. So it's a very specific type of disagreement. I'll start with my opening statements. The human-to-animal bond with respect to moral consideration is informing us of a capacity that the animal has. That being the capacity for the animal to feel an attachment to another being. When we feel that attachment directly, we easily grant moral consideration to that species. We grant it to the species because we recognize that animals of the same properties have the same capacity. Now, I will argue that it is merely this capacity to form attachments and bonds that grants them the moral consideration, and not, as my opposition believes, merely their capacity to form them with humans. The formation of a bond with humans with respect to moral consideration is an instrument to strengthen our certainty of the species' capacity. This capacity for bonding suggests to us that the animal has a mind, that it experiences emotions, and it is these abilities to experience these mental states that we are giving moral consideration. To summarize my point, we grant moral consideration for the sake of the animal and not for the sake of the bond between man and animal.
No, I disagree with that. I think you should only give consideration if the animal is capable of bonding with humans, not other animals, because all animals bond with their caste and their castes,
I'm having a little hard time understanding you, GreenEarth. What did you say?
Like, understanding as in my mic is bad.
Sorry, once
Hello?
more? Yeah, I can hear you making sound, but it's just a little unclear. Maybe it's my headphones.
Just 1 minute. Can anybody else hear me?
I can hear you. It was just unclear. That was more clear.
Yeah, just a minute.
Okay. I can't hear you, GreenEarth.
Can you now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. So I disagree. I think you should only give them consideration if they form bonds with humans or other animals or their own species. I think humans matter more.
Than other animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why humans being superior leads to us then being able to do whatever we want to animals. But regardless, the idea that it's just the bond between humans that gives them the consideration seems a little untenable to me. For example, we give moral consideration to animals that we don't have bonds with, like tigers. We don't have tigers as pets, but people get very upset when you kill a tiger. So we're giving moral consideration to an animal we're not building a bond with. GreenEarth, are you there? Yeah, you can take a minute.
I was gone for a little bit. Is everything good?
Yeah, GreenEarth is setting up his mic.
Oh, okay, cool.
Can you say that again? Your last point?
Oh, I was saying that we do grant moral consideration for animals that we don't have bonds with. One example would be an animal like the tiger. It seems to me that we have a strong reaction to tigers being killed needlessly. And we don't form emotional bonds with tigers like we do dogs or cats.
Because it is a cat. So we do. Like, it's
Well,
not a cat farm.
That's not totally true, not just because it's a cat. For example, a lot of fur trading is involved with killing wild cats, like especially in northern hemispheres. In Canada and Alaska, in Russia, they kill a small cat like the size of a bobcat just for its fur to sell. And it's a cat, but it's not given moral consideration. It's used like a product like other livestock.
Yeah, but I'm not giving them consideration.
You don't give tigers moral consideration?
No, I don't.
Okay. But you do see that as an intuition, other people are giving tigers moral consideration, right?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
People give a lot of things consideration that they shouldn't.
Right. So that's an example of an animal that we don't form an emotional bond with that we do give moral consideration to.
Yeah.
With respect to something like the cow, your argument is to say that the cow cannot form an emotional bond with humans, therefore it's okay to kill and eat the cow. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can I ask you where you think this emotional bond comes from or how it's formed between, like, say, a dog or a cat?
Because they were domesticated that way.
And by domesticated, do you mean that they were like bred to form a bond, or that they have that capacity to form a bond already?
No, like we selectively bred them, so that helped them get traits like bonding.
So you think through breeding, bonding came about?
Well, I don't know how it came about, but there's evidence for it, but there's no evidence with cows.
Well, with something like the cat, the cat was hanging around humans for a lot longer than we domesticated them as pets. Them being pets is a more recent phenomena. Like a long time ago, they were considered more like just an animal that they liked having around because they would kill mice and stuff. But using the cat as like a comfort animal is more recent. Also, cows themselves were domesticated too. So I'm not sure. In fact, cows have been domesticated for longer than the cat has. Like cows have been domesticated for over 10,000 years, but the cat has been domesticated way more recently. So just being domesticated doesn't mean that the bond is suddenly there or not. I think the cat had the capacity to bond with humans already. And then as we noticed that bond, we started to breed them for companion animals. But the reason why I ask about where bonding comes from is it's really important with attachment and attachment styles between animals. So let's take the human example. There are cases of humans who had no physical touch when they were children. Like there's this story of orphanages in Russia where the children had no physical touch in the orphanage when they were babies. And they grew up having really difficult times empathizing with other humans. So even humans don't have an innate empathy that comes up for other humans. It's something that arises with attachment to humans that are raising you, that are loving you as a child. You need that physical touch. You need that other human to go to when you're stressed out and need comfort. And it's through that we have some natural mechanisms to make that bond stronger, but that bond isn't there inherently. It has to be built. So even in humans...
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So when I said domestication, like the way they were domesticated, I didn't mean like in the chat the people are like cows were there for a longer time, but it's the way they were domesticated. Because there's a book called Cat Sense, which states that cats see us as no other animal sees it that way, because the way they were domesticated.
We'll get to the point about how we even know that. But I'm going to challenge that notion later. I just want to finish this idea about where attachment comes from. So even in humans with attachment, there needs to be contact between two humans for that bond to occur, even of the same species. It's got to be cultivated. We have the tools needed to build a bond, but in order for the bond to form, we need the contact. It's like, you could think of it like every human is born as a loaded gun, but then the environment pulls the trigger on those genes, like the bonding that I'm talking about. So with humans who don't have that bonding early in childhood, they cannot emphasize with other humans when they're adults. And trying to teach them empathy is incredibly difficult. It's still an open question in psychology, how to address someone who had this really bad attachment as a child and how to change the behavior so that they can have healthy relationships with other humans. So my point with that is to go back to the cow. So you said that the cow doesn't have attachment to human. We don't see that bond there. And I'm going to point to how attachment arises. The cow is not given the opportunity to bond to the human. The cow is completely separated. The whole point of the cow's existence is to be a commodity for us. We don't give the cow the opportunity for us to build an emotional bond with the cow because it would be a moral trauma to us to kill that animal we have a bond to for food. So we insulate that with the cow. We separate it from us. We try to keep that moral intuition away from what we eat. So with the cow, it's not that it doesn't have the capacity to form a bond with us. We don't even give it the chance to form a bond with us.
I would disagree to that because there was also an experiment done on pigs, seeing which pigs or dogs are more inclined to human companionship, and pigs weren't because they were domesticated for a different purpose.
GreenEarth, but that doesn't address my point about the cows.
No, what I'm saying is it depends on how they were domesticated. Because,
why does the domestication lead to them not forming bonds with humans?
Just how we see it in pigs. Why can't, like, the same way cows do?
Can you elaborate more on how we see it in pigs?
There was an experiment done by a university. Like, there's a video about it, like on YouTube too. It was an experiment done by a university to see if pigs will seek human companionship without food. And they didn't find anything.
Well, again, GreenEarth, that's the same problem we talked about before, because the pigs are domesticated to be food. The pigs were never given the opportunity to bond with the humans.
No, these are not farm pigs.
They're domesticated. They're like pet pigs.
Yeah, and they did it with a dog and a pig, and only the dog went to the owner, not the pig.
Say that again.
Like, only the dog was interested in the human. Food was taken away. The pig wasn't. The pig just walked away. This shows that dogs and cats are more inclined to human companionship, and other animals aren't because they were not domesticated that way. Even cats, there was an experiment done by another university on cats with human interaction over toys and food. Cats took that, but the pig didn't take. Pig took food over human interaction.
But the cats picked human touch over the food.
Yeah.
Why is it picking human touch over the food indicative of there being an emotional bond to the human?
No, that's just an example. There are a lot of other factors too. I'm just giving examples on how domestication affects the behavior.
Right, but that doesn't then mean the pig has an inability to form a bond with the human.
Can you say that again?
I don't see how the pig picking the food over the human means that the pig lacks the ability to form a bond with the human.
No, I'm just pointing out how domestication affects behavior and how it can affect other things too.
Why does domestication lead to that behavior rather than it being something that was left over from evolution that the pig would just always go? Like, would wild pigs do the same thing too? Do we know that?
Do you think wild animals can bond with humans?
I mean, yeah, definitely. That's where dogs came from. A wild animal bonded with a human, and now we have dogs. And we've just kept breeding them over time.
Bond with the humans. We kept them, and in time,
No, it wasn't. It was no. The way that it happened was that the wolves were more collaborative with us. They would hunt with us. It wasn't like we saw wolves in the wild and then we just like put them in a pen and then bred them over time to make them pets. What happened is the humans would hunt, the wolves would show up at the fireplace, and maybe the humans would give some to the wolves that were less shy around people. And then those wolves would start to follow the humans and hunt with the humans. And then the humans were like, hey, these are actually really great hunting partners. Maybe we should like keep hunting with them. And then those wolves transitioned to be part of the human tribe. So it wasn't manufactured like the way you're describing it. It was a mutual domestication between the wolf and the humans. It was a wild bond that occurred. And then dogs are the evolution of that.
We still don't know how dogs are domesticated. That's still up in the air. You're just stating it like it's a fact. We still don't know. They may be domesticated twice.
Yeah, they were domesticated in different places, but your criticism of me stating it as a fact, your criticism of mine being stated as a fact also applies to yours.
As in?
You were saying that we domesticated them and that's how the bond formed. But I'm offering you a different path to how the wolves were domesticated, where it wasn't that we gave them the ability to bond with us. The bond was there, and then they became part of the pack, part of the tribe.
So how would you explain the attacks on humans, the wolf and the bear attack humans?
Well, there are different personalities in the wolves. Some wolves are more aggressive to humans and they stay away. Also, all of these attacks that we see with wolves, those are occurring in a time period post-agriculture, post-animal agriculture, where wolves were eating the livestock that humans had. So the wolves became an adversary in that environment. We don't have writings from before that time period. We have no idea what the relationship with wolves and humans was like out in the wild. It's possible that wolves were attacking humans, but I think that the conflict between wolves and humans became way more exaggerated when animal agriculture came about. But regardless, this is going back to the point of the cow. The cow isn't given the opportunity to attach to a human, so we don't know if it attaches to the human. And you're saying that because the pig did this weird thing, that suddenly the cow doesn't have the ability. But we were talking about cows to start with. So I want to get back to the cow.
No, that's again, we have no evidence that cows can. Like, there's literally no peer-reviewed study or study that says cows can bond with humans. We have it for cats, we have it for dogs. We just don't have it for cows.
Well, look, why does the study show that a bond is there rather than the experience of the human having a bond with that animal? Why do you need a study to know that the animal is bonding with the human? We didn't need studies to know that dogs were bonding with us. The studies just confirm that they have a bond.
But how do you know that? You can't just look at behavior.
What is a study doing besides looking at behavior?
It just doesn't look at... It looks at different kinds of behavior which we don't notice.
Say again.
It looks at different kinds of behavior that we...
Well, what it's trying to do is it's trying to isolate bias as much as possible. And it's trying to get at a specific type of behavior so that we can increase our certainty that the animal has that capacity. And I want to go back to the point I made in my opening statement. This emotional bond that we see with these studies, all it does is increase our certainty that the animal has that experience. And it's because the animal has the experience that we grant the animal that moral consideration. It is not because of the bond. It's not because of some social contract that arises between the two animals. It's because the animal is capable of having an experience at all.
No, I don't think. I think unless there is a contract, I don't think they deserve moral consideration. Because as I've mentioned before, we're on top of the food chain. Until something benefits us, we don't benefit.
Okay, so if it's just based on benefit, then I'll ask you a hypothetical. Let's say that we have a robot, and the robot can perform all of the actions that the cat can perform. It can mimic the behavior of a cat perfectly, but the robot doesn't have a mind. It doesn't have any experiences. It just perfectly replicates the cat. And that robot gives you the feeling that the cat gives you. So from your perspective, the robot cat makes you feel exactly like a real life cat. The robot cat behaves exactly like a real life cat. You can't distinguish the two. The difference is the robot cat does not have a mind. Now, is it wrong to kill the robot cat? Or would it be fine to kill the robot cat? What's the moral consideration for the robot cat that doesn't have a mind?
It's not even alive.
Yeah, exactly. It's not alive. It just perfectly imitates life.
It's okay to kill the robot cat.
Huh?
It's okay to kill it.
Exactly. It would be fine to kill the robot cat because it has no experience. It doesn't have a mind. So the thing that's getting the moral consideration isn't the beneficial bond that occurs between you and the cat. The thing that gets the moral consideration is simply the mind and the experiences and the capacity, not the bond. The bond is just an instrument to tell us it has a mind.
The capacity to bond with us, not other animals. That's what matters.
Why is it with us? Why does it have to be with us rather than the mind itself? What is so special about the bond with us that makes it worth giving them consideration?
Because then they make better pets. And I don't think how other things would benefit us other than having pets. If a cow can look after its calf but won't care about us, then I wouldn't like it as a pet. So I wouldn't care.
So you only think that animals that can be pets deserve to have consideration?
Yes.
Okay, so let's imagine that there's another species on the planet that's just as smart as us, okay? We're maybe a little bit smarter, so we're still superior. But the other animal can have the exact same experience as us. Like it can feel love and pain and all of this stuff and have rich, very rich, complex emotions with other animals in its species. Very similar to us. You could maybe even consider them like Neanderthals or something. But we can't breed with them because they're a separate species in this hypothetical. So this other animal is unable to bond with us, but it has all of these rich experiences, equal intelligence. In fact, it's like smart enough that it could go to our colleges and get PhDs in engineering and things like that. But no bonds with humans. Like when we interact with them, they seem like sociopaths to us. Not picking up on any of our social cues or anything like that. They don't benefit us in any way. Is it okay to take this hypothetical species and domesticate them and kill them just because they don't form an emotional bond with us? Or would you consider that to be wrong?
Like orcas then. Like, I think like orcas like
What?
Like whales, what are whales? We still give them consideration, right?
Yeah, and why do we give those animals consideration when we don't have emotional bonds with them?
Because they're smarter than any other animal there is. Like I'm pretty sure they're smarter than chimpanzees too.
So for you, the notion is just because they're smart, they get moral consideration, rather than it being that the animal can experience things like pain and these deep bonds.
Sorry.
I mean, this would go back to the robot case. You could have an AI that's like the most intelligent AI ever, way smarter than humans, but it doesn't have a mind. It doesn't have experiences. It just can do things way more than humans. And you would be fine killing that because it doesn't have any internal experience. We already went over that with the cat robot. So what you're saying is, you seem to be contradicting yourself where you're saying, no, if it doesn't have this internal experience, then it's fine killing it. But then here's an orca. It's not just because it's smart. Okay.
So it's not okay to kill the other species because they have similar intelligence, similar experiences to us. But it's okay to kill a cow because it nor does have similar experiences to us, nor it can be a pet.
Okay, so now there's this additional trait. Similar experiences to us. I have a few questions. One, how do we know they have similar experiences to us? And two, how similar do they have to be? And three, why does that then have to be put together with them forming a bond with us? So let's start with the first question. How do you know they have similar experiences to us? Like the orca.
No, I'm not talking about the orca. I was talking about the hypothetical species you made up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so the hypothetical species. So it's because they can have similar experiences.
Yeah.
So, like, is there a spectrum there or a gradient? Like, how similar does it have to be for us to give moral consideration to it versus, like, how far down it would go before you would be like fine killing it?
If it has like similar to us or as much as the same experiences as us or similar to us.
Like what kinds of
below that?
What kinds of experiences exactly?
Like they have the same level of consciousness as us.
Okay, so what do you mean by consciousness? Just awareness? The same level of awareness?
Yeah, awareness.
So you think that like awareness is a spectrum?
Yeah.
Well, I have a few questions about that. So with awareness, are you saying the same level of awareness of the outside world or the same level of awareness of an internal world, like of their own mind? Are you saying like just awareness of a certain spectrum of vision or an awareness of a certain spectrum of sound? Can you get a little bit more clear with what you mean by awareness here?
I don't think so. I can't.
Okay, so then it's going to be really difficult for us to know if other animals have that same level of awareness. If it's this really broad thing, we can't go and say like, well, it's obvious that this other animal has this really broad, fuzzy thing we can't define. So do you see an issue there?
No, because my point was before you brought the hypothetical species is that right now we are on top of the food chain and there's no animal that comes near us. So unless animals which can be pets, only the animals that can be pets given moral consideration, and others are not. And
right, but we went through this. We went through this already, where we talked about it's not just the benefit we get. It's not just the bond we get. It's because the animal has a mind. That was the point of the cat robot hypothetical. That cat robot that perfectly imitates the cat and gives us the exact same feelings as a real life cat does. That robot cat doesn't have a mind. We're not giving the moral consideration to the bond that happens. We're giving the consideration to the animal's mind, the animal's experiences.
Yes, we are, but there's another thing that I would like to add. You can't have cows as pets because they're too big. So.
Okay, so now back to the cow case. You're saying, one, we domesticated the cow, and through domestication, the cow lost the ability to form an emotional bond with humans, and because the cow cannot form emotional bonds with humans, it would make a bad pet. Plus, cows are fucking massive, and if you had a cow as a pet in your house, it would poop everywhere and destroy everything. Is that basically your position?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you're against really big animals being in your house, then you probably should be against like really big humans being in your house. But that's maybe more of a joke statement than anything. So I want to get back to the cow domestication and the emotional bond capacity piece. Remember how I was talking earlier that humans, in order to form an emotional bond, need to have the opportunity to have that touch and connection with another human to build it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so cows are never given that opportunity because they're separated from humans to be able to do that. All they have is the ability to connect with other cows. And we see clearly that the cow is forming these deep relationships. They have best friends. They get sad when their best friend is taken away. This animal mind can recognize another animal as being a creature and as being one that they care about. The same thing happens with the baby. They see this little baby, they have these rich experiences about it. When a baby cow is taken away from the mother, it'll cry for 2 weeks. It'll try and fight the farmers. Yeah. So that's telling us there that these animals have a mind. They have a rich experience. It's something similar to our awareness. It's not exactly the same, but it's close enough that I think the moral consideration would be granted to that animal's mind. It doesn't need to have the bond.
Okay, let's say they have the similar experiences, but it's too big. You can't keep them as pets. They don't. What do we do with cats that in shelters that are not adopted?
Say what?
What do we do to cats in shelters that are not adopted?
What do we do with cows once we stop killing them? Calves.
Cats.
So baby cows, what do we do with them?
No. What do we do with cats that don't get adopted? We put them down, right?
Yeah, we kill them.
They can't be pets anymore. So if a cow can't be pet, if cows can't be pets, then I don't see the reason keeping them alive.
Well, hold on a second. That's a different consideration than their moral consideration. Let me explain. That's a practical response to the question of what the fuck do we do with this animal that no one's going to take care of? It's not really relevant to their moral consideration because the cow isn't given moral consideration currently as it is. So to point out current practices that have answers to practical problems or practical solutions to this problem doesn't address the question of the cow getting moral consideration and why the cow would get moral consideration.
Again, I just said it, and even if we accept that, I gave that answer. But there's still no evidence. Like, there's
evidence of what?
No evidence that they actually do form bonds with humans.
I mean, again, we went through, it's not just the bond with humans there, it's the mind, and it's the similarity with the mind. So that was the point of the hypothetical with the species that's really close to humans, but doesn't form a bond with us. Like, we grant this species that has similar experience moral consideration just because it has that internal experience. So the moral consideration is not being granted because of the bond. It's because of the mind. With the cow, we see evidence that the cow has a mind, that the cow has an internal experience. So the cow ought to get moral consideration.
Well, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah. Can you elaborate as to why?
No, I can't disagree with that.
Oh, I see. Well, I think that's the nature of the proposition then.
Well, do you want to talk about like how practicality of?
You want to what?
Like, should we get at how practical it is now?
Well, before we do that, I just want to ask if that would be a concession to the proposition.
Yes, I would. I don't have any other argument.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So, is it fair to assume that you concede the proposition?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome. Thanks, Green. I'm happy to talk about practical stuff now. Because the debate's over, maybe we would need to open it up and move to like Serious Saloon or something. But maybe I should ask Stone or another mod.
Yeah, we could do
Yeah,
that. Just to be clear, though, did you concede the debate, Green, or are we putting it to a vote?
I lose the debate, right?
Yeah, if you concede.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll just move everyone back to Saloon then. Back to Saloon then. And thanks again for debating. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Green. I appreciate it.